Hey guys, welcome to BTech. I'm Basil and this is an HTC One A9. You're watching our camera review. Now the HTC One A9 has a 4 ultra pixel front camera and a 13 megapixel rear camera. So the front camera has really nice big pixels, 2 microns to be precise. Around the back, the camera has smaller pixels in terms of their sheer size, 1.2 microns, but with more megapixels, it can gather a fair bit more detail. Now, how do they stack up? Everyone knows that the HTC One M9 camera was something of a letdown, especially in low light. Really glad to say from the offset that the HTC One A9 definitely, well, it's better than the M9, that's for sure. Now we're going to talk about how the UI fares and compare it against some other key competitors. So to start off with, I'm just going to open up the camera application and you can see everything looks a little bit different. Down at the base, you've got these 4 dots on the left hand side and they're your options. You can shoot movies or you can take a photo. You can also shortcut straight through to the gallery. Now that is nothing unusual. In addition to the left, you've got the 3 dots up at the top. You've got photo size control. I've got it set to 4:3 at 13 megapixels, but you can have it 16:9 at 10 megapixels. And there are a few additional camera options like auto smile capture, voice capture, and touch to capture. That's by the by though. We're bringing it closer and you can see this is exactly where you can flip between front and rear camera. You can also toggle HDR mode. There is no auto HDR on this, which to be honest, me personally, I'm quite a fan of because I like having a bit more control there. You can also see, although having said that, auto HDR would be a nice option to have just so long as you can switch it off. You can also see there's flash control as well. If I tap on the 3 dots, I can also jump through to the general settings, and here you can toggle your grid, geotag your photo, shut sound, control what the volumes buttons do, etc. I can jump out of that, and now I can take a look at the actual shooting modes. Instantly, there's something different here. If I tap on the settings, it's the settings that we've seen already. HTC's ditched the HTC One M9 freeform. You can add your own quick modes here. Now you've just got Pro, Selfie, Hyperlapse Camera, Slow Motion, and Panorama. If you're wondering what they are, Pro is awesome. This is actually my favorite mode. It allows you to control full manual, and I'll talk about the performance of that in a short while. As for selfie, standard selfie, you can also hyperlapse, so you can take a long video and it'll squish it into one short video, which we'll show you a little later. Camera, slow motion, and panorama. Now we're getting into the quality. The automatic mode is pretty good, so I'll jump into camera, and you can see I've got some batteries and I've got a Nomo case. And I can very quickly take a picture. Instantly, the picture's nice and sharp. It's great lighting in here, which is really fortunate. But even down to the detailing on the Nomo case and the blur in front and back, you've got some nice depth of field there. Really, really decent picture. In fact, we compared this against the iPhone 6s Plus and a few other devices, and in photography mode, it did very well. I wouldn't say it was the best camera out there, but definitely amongst the best. Now, one area it really excels is in macros. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bring these batteries a little bit forward, and then I'm gonna jump back out into the camera, get a little bit closer, tap on the screen, and you can see instantly again as I zoom in on that picture, it's nice and clear exactly where your focal point hit, and the background is beautifully blurred out. So it's got better macro performance than the iPhone 6s, for example, especially in the sense that it can get a lot closer into a subject. Now, what really showcases this is when you jump into the manual settings. So if I jump into Pro mode, and you can also shoot RAW in Pro mode, by the way, so that's really worth noting. So whether you want to edit on the device or edit in another application like Photoshop. So immediately, as you can see, you've got manual focus. So I'm at the closest focal range. Everyone who knows photography knows that faster shutter speed is going to give you a little bit more blur. So potentially up the ISO to get a really nice fast shutter speed, even though it's very bright in here. So a picture like this should deliver a fair amount of blur. You can also then control the white balance. As you can see, I can go for a pretty natural kind of woody finish right there. That's a little bit underexposed, so I'm going to up the ISO even more for a slightly overexposed shot. Pull in closer. It's all locked focus, so I don't need to do anything in terms of tapping, and just take the picture. What's truly great is the fact you can see the image stabilization at play. If I tap through on that picture, it's a raw picture, you can see right there. I can jump straight into the editor and edit it, but the raw image actually looks pretty sweet. So incredibly sharp in the foreground there, and the background very blurred out with that nice fast shutter speed. There is a bit of grain given the raised ISO, but it isn't anything too shabby, and especially considering that's a raw image, editing that out won't be a problem. You can also see when you do come to enhance your raw image, it can take a while. So the processor inside here is a Snapdragon 617. It's got 3 gig of RAM in our version, but it will have 2 gig of RAM if you get it in the UK. And so these processors may be faster handled with a faster processor, but that is not what we have on here, unfortunately. Still a decent processor, and the processors, as you can see, aren't too painful. So once the raw enhancement is applied, you can tap through on there. You can see the effects that you can actually lay over. So you can discard effects, etc. Jump out of that, so discard. You can see you've got various face fusion shapes like we've seen on other HTC devices. You've got essentials, which are the kind of really basic ones. So long and short, the 13 megapixel camera around the back performs really well. As for the front-facing camera, it does a good job in good light. In low light, it doesn't do quite as good a job. It kind of flattens out the faces, and we're able to get more detail out of the iPhone 6s camera, as you can see on screen. That said, for video calling and for video, it does a great job. We compared the video of the HTC One A9 with the iPhone 6s outdoors in a couple of circumstances, both front and rear camera, and found that the HTC One A9's microphone was superior in most instances. The video wasn't necessarily always superior, although it did have better focus when it came to macro, and in addition to that, it had a nice wide angle, so you could get a fair bit more in frame. Ultimately, therefore, the HTC One A9 has really brought HTC back up to being competitive on the camera front. It really harks back to the days of the HTC One X with their really strong competitive cameras. So that's a good thing at least. So no matter what else you think about the HTC One A9, whether you think it's an iPhone clone, whether you think it's going to have too small a battery, one thing that is for sure is that the camera is good. Is it the best camera on the market? No, it isn't. Is it one of the best? Well, if you factor in that macro performance, then it may well be, unless of course you need to be able to shoot 4K video, because that is something that this cannot do. Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of separated element of the review. If you did click that thumbs up button, the reason we did it that way was so that we could get you camera impressions sooner, so you wouldn't have to wait for the full review. If you like the style, let us know. We want to hear from you, and of course subscribe to the channel. It helps us out massively, and it means you stay on top of everything we do.